All right, I just hit the recording in progress button. Normally there'll be something that says, do we have permission to record this? So, for the sake of education, you guys are with us forever, at least in this particular class. So I'm glad you're here. My name is Robert Jones. I'm one of the co-publishers of the book, The Art of Connection. This is the second in the series. And as I was saying before the recording, this idea actually came about because I'm kind of like the luckiest father in the world. My kids are actually starting to listen to some of the things that I've learned in my life. And one of the things I say is, what good is personal development if no one uses it? But when my child stated that, in terms of legacy, that it should be more about the knowledge than the stuff, I thought, that's a good foundation to start this particular book on. And someone talked about the idea of putting it into the website and the book, and I think that's a good plan. And I'm here with Natalie McQueen. She's the other half of the publishing company. Natalie, would you like to announce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Natalie McQueen. I'm with GMCP Publishing, and Orly and More is the other part of the partnership in this book. And it's going to be a beautiful book. We're really excited to meet all new authors and some repeat authors, and it's going to be an exciting journey.
It really is, and we're quite ecstatic in the first book. It really didn't start out to be an international bestseller or to start taking the marketplace by storm. And in that book, we had 122 first-time authors created, and many of those authors, I believe sometimes the first step is the most courageous step, and then you just keep taking step after step after step after that. And many of those authors have, and many of those authors are in the second book. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to go through the page of the book itself. And I've said this many times, it's not about writing 1,000 pages, it's about writing one page well. And each of our pages collectively together can create a tremendous amount of impact, for the world around us. And so far, so many people have been utilizing this to facilitate groups or to use as quotes that they utilize to make memes. Some of them are utilizing this for training. And I'm quite excited that people are using it in such ways that I didn't think. It was originally to provide hope, inspiration, and trust for others that were getting through the thing called COVID. That's really what we were attempting to do. And when I had the opportunity to work with Orly and More to be the publishing partner and co-author of the book, I jumped at it because she does the other thing that I think is very amazing in our world, and that is helping coach people to have the power of voice in public speaking. And I say that because two things I think are timeless. That's the words that we write and the words that we say. And that goes back to what my son originally said, and that's the story of legacy. And so if I have your permission, Natalie and I will begin this presentation, and I will bring a PowerPoint up. Hopefully I won't fail at that miserably now. So let me do that really quickly here. And of course, we'll take breaks throughout a little bit so we can have a little bit of roundtable discussion. And, we hope to wrap up within the hour, unless you guys just start going crazy and you just want to keep talking. So, we're always open for more. So let me see here. Share screen. And I have to see which one am I sharing. There's lots of screens to share. Let's see. I do not see my publishing file in this. Nope, that would not be it. The wonderful things about live, right? No, that is not it.
I can't see everybody, but out of who we can see, is this your first time writing, or have you been published before? Maybe put your hand up if it's your first time. Okay, Lana is your first time. Janet, okay, awesome.
All right. All right. Well, great. Does everyone see the book that I have in the background? Is
Yes.
okay. All right. So we're presenting a book on how to create your page in the Art of Connection book series in 1 hour or less. And we found that most authors are able to do this in about 45 minutes to an hour. Wouldn't that be correct, Natalie?
Yeah.
You know, and again, we're not looking for a tremendous amount of content. We're just looking at content that will inspire others and create a great impact. And this book certainly has. And we've done this because with most entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs authors, meaning that you make the bulk of your income outside of the author realm. You know, whether you're a coach or whether you sell digital marketing services or whether you sell some type of product, you know, your desire, your need for credibility and becoming a best-selling author that's at the Library of Congress is more so to create more credibility, especially what I call the tally marks. And so that means when someone goes to, let's say, a LinkedIn profile or a website or a starter for a conversation or, you know, start of a legacy or impact book like this, you know, you have something that you can show up. You know, one of my clients said to me, you know, I learned that it's more powerful to lift a book up to show someone that it is a business card when you're on a Zoom. And I thought that's a pretty incredible tidbit to know. So, you know, so the book is composed of 4 main parts. Here's a sample page. It's your inspirational quote. And the quote is your quote. It's not by someone else. You know, it's Lana Stevenson's quote. It would be Kathleen Blair's quote, Georgette Combs, Dr. LaWanna Parker, Monette Tavarada, Janet Davis, Debbie Engler. These are your quotes. You know, we want people to start with the you, and it's no more impactful or wonderful than your quote, is it, Natalie?
Yes, and you don't understand. Many times we all think that our words don't have impact because you know, no one's special. Well, what we've learned is we're all amazing. We all have been on separate journeys. And sometimes the small words, as you can see in Brian's, a simple few words together can have such an impact on people.
And after your inspirational quote, you have your author thought. So you can elaborate on that quote. A question, a meaningful question. I always say the greatest learning actually comes from questions, not the answers, because it's the questions that create the thoughts of many, especially in a group. And then lastly, your contact information. We give you an area that you're able to fill in information so people get a hold of you. So Dr. LaWanna Parker, she gives this great quote and thought. It'd be terrible if someone couldn't reach out and say, Dr. LaWanna, I want to talk with you about this because you said something that I lived, or I know someone who had lived that way, or know someone who had to overcome something. You touched me. And again, that's what this book is about, is to shorten the rope of connections between each other, to bring community back to our community, us again.
Now, Robert, I forget, we put this together a little bit ago. Did we talk about the section of when we put our contact information, if we have multiple links, how to do that, or should we talk about that now?
We will talk about that when we get to the information section.
Okay, perfect.
And so the overview is it's really 4 main areas, in addition to your name, of course. And you know, so your quote, your thought, your question, and your contact information, so people can get a hold of you. Now, under the author quote, it includes up to 150 characters, and I believe that. What is that, Natalie? About 35 words? Is that about right? 25 words?
Yeah.
And you know, in the first book, some of the authors were really having some long quotes, so we had to come back, and you know, we had quotes that were actually longer than the thoughts, and we thought it might be a little bit more powerful if we keep the quote a little bit shorter and impactful, and have the thought a little bit longer. So we wanted to conserve that space. But again, the inspirational quote is something that you have in your life that you may live by. The next part is we want to talk a little bit about, what we mean by an inspirational quote. And the definition of inspiration that Natalie and I found is just the process of being mentally and emotionally encouraged to do something great, which includes holistic, positive, and meaningful actions that influence. And you notice that word holistic. I think that is an amazing word. And we mean from top to bottom, side to side, a holistic approach, to your thoughts and your worlds that you can gift with others. Would you like to say anything on that, Natalie?
Well, I had not heard of that holistic meaning. And so, yeah, I love that it's bringing everything in. And when you're thinking about inspiring others, think about things that you have read, and it's those aha moments where you're like, wow, and you can actually implement some of that, and that's what you're wanting to do for others.
I remember when I was thinking about inspiration for myself, I thought, inspiration is a beautiful word because, and then it came to me, a phrase of inspiration can amount to a lifetime of aspirations, and that's what inspiration can do. It's just that one motivating thought that creates a lifetime of passion. And I think the younger that we can do that for kids and each other, and some of us are going through a lot of change through COVID. I think this is an ideal time to help others. So we came up with a list of some ideas of inspiration, Natalie and I did. And, one of them would be, what would you tell your younger self? And Natalie, why don't we alternate on these? You can read the next one and we'll go through one by one.
Yeah, the second one is, if there was one thing you could do to change the world, what would it be?
And there's a third one. The third one is, what is a phrase that you live by? And I always like to call that the gets you up in the morning quote.
Right.
Is there something that just gets you up in the quote? And I like to say that because we all don't, well, at least I don't always wake up 100%. I know it looks like I always wake up 100%, but sometimes I don't. I might wake up at 99%. So I have to do something to get me to that 100%. And each morning, I just say the same thing. Just, Robert, it's going to be a beautiful day. It's just going to be a beautiful day. Well, why is that? That's my thought.
So what lights you up? And here's an example. Robert, you're talking about your morning routine. One of my morning routines is to do gratitudes and affirmations. And by the time I get through my affirmations, like, I feel like I'm Superwoman and I can take on the world. So that's how powerful words are, and how inspiring you can be even to yourself. So that's a good one.
And the next one is, and I think this is important, and it could be joy as well, but what is your happy? What is the happy in your life that you can put into words, and then you can share that thought with someone so they can see happiness as well? Because I think sometimes, and even many times, your happy might be someone else's happy as well. They just didn't know it until they read it.
And the next one is, how do you use your words to impact others?
I love that one. I really do. And the next one is, does your quote move you? I mean, certainly, that's like, does your quote move you? Maybe that's similar to just getting out in bed, getting out of bed in the morning, but, does it move you to get on to greater things? Does it move you? I am, one of the things I had talked about in a Zoom the other day, how many people actually go into a Zoom and have a goal? Maybe the goal is, to move or motivate to say, I'm just going to show up and be the most engaged person in the room. And that motivates me because I can show through the practice of action what it looks like to really show who I am to others. And I think that that's important.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, if you read your quote and it doesn't move you, then maybe you want to work on it a little bit more. um, so the next one is not giving up. So um, what have you come upon? Is there an obstacle or something? And what kept you going? What was that drive that you said, I'm not going to give up?
And the second to the last one is, what have you overcome? And I think that is really, really an amazing quote, and it hits personally for me because I know I'm the guy among everyone in here, but I'm half Hispanic and I'm half Anglo, and sometimes I never felt like I fit with either group. And I know if my mom, she raised me as a single mom, she had to overcome a lot to become the first American of Mexican descent to get her PhD, the first one in curriculum instruction and multicultural education. Maybe you have overcome the same things. You've had to work twice as hard to get half as much, to get to where you are now. But that's a story that should be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And how have you persevered? That's similar. What I have really learned over the years of working with authors is, it's not even with authors, speakers is another great example. People are afraid to be authentic because they feel that it will make them look not perfect, that they have flaws, that not everything they did worked out as it was supposed to. And then they realize when they are authentic and open up and share some of that, that other people say, oh my gosh, I went through that too. I can totally relate to you. And that's when connections happen, and where you do move people and you do have an impact because they can now relate to you.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop the share for just a second. And, I kind of want to open up the mics for just a little bit of a roundtable discussion with everyone and see if you've come up with some thoughts as well that you can share. And Debbie, I'll pick on you first because you're always good for sharing.
Oh my gosh. I had something in mind, but I'm having a hard time shortening the actual quote. And so that's what I'm struggling with. And now that I'm hearing these other ideas, I'm kind of maybe wanting to change it. So I don't know if you want to hear my idea or
Sure.
what. So what my idea is something along the lines of tips for navigating life. And I wanted to include God in it because I have a lot of faith through a lot of what I have gone through. So something like this, I haven't gotten it as far down as I want, but some of the most empowering tips for navigating through life from God sometimes comes from the skipper of a small boat in rough waters rather than the captain of a big ship in smooth sailing seas. So what I'm trying to convey, and like I say, I have to shorten it because I think it's too long. But what I'm trying to say is sometimes, when people have gone through, kind of easy life, it's easy to say how wonderful things are. But I have some very dear friends of mine who are both stage 4 cancer survivors who are living the, get up and live. Like they won't let it stop them. And they both overcame it. And that's how they met, because they both wrote books. And then they ended up getting married, and they're like so in love. Like if you ever saw them, you would be like, I wish I could be them, unless you already have that. But they then, like 2 months after they got married, the wife got cancer back. And so for almost now 2 years, she has been going through constant, treatments and radiation and, spinal surgeries and this and that, but nothing stops them.
So like what I'm hearing is, you're doing two things, and I think you need to separate them. One is what is the guidepost of the quote, and then what is the development of the thought, which is your story. Because I hear navigating waters, those two words you can probably weave into some type of quote. When all is lost, God still provides you the navigation to get through rough waters. And then you could take, maybe something that's built upon that, and then, start building what that looks like to someone who is, reading your thought. Does that make sense, Debbie?
Right. Yes, it does. And so I guess I was going to try to use the example of those people who,
because the example would go into the content or the thought part of it. But what you want to do is you want to create a driver out of your quote. So when we, again, like maybe when navigating gets tough, God is still there to guide you through the waters, and you can kind of take those pieces and see how short the quote is, but it's still powerful and you're still using God.
Yes. Yep. That I like that. I really like that.
Would anyone else like to share? This is our open mic time, and this is when, if you want to get out the prose, this is it. Monette, would you like to share?
I am trying to find my quote. I had it all together, and I was
Lana,
and I don't know where I put it. I haven't really got it down right now. So if someone wants to go while I find it, I put it somewhere.
Sure.
All right.
You go ahead.
Okay. This is my quote. Where is it? Let me go look at it. Look for it quickly. Oh, here's my quote. Your memory are like a passport. Your travels are the milestone you conquered. What a privilege to leave behind a legacy for others to follow.
Nice.
And what help do you need? No, I'm just
No, I'm just saying, I was just, getting some feedback on, so that's the quote I kind of put together, Well, talking about, so I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said, we're going to be traveling quite a bit next year. And so that came, I'm like, wow, life is like traveling, our passport is stamped depending where we're going. Anyway, so that's a quote I kind of put together.
Nice.
What I like about, just make sure it's not too long. I always feel like a quote is like can be two parts as well. And a quote can even be a question. One of my favorite quotes, you may have heard of this movie, Forrest Gump, is, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. And it's still a beautiful quote because, it makes you look at life, and then you can see that box of chocolate opening up, and then all of a sudden you bite into something. It's like, what does that look like? It's something that you can build. Georgette, would you like to share a quote or something that you're working on?
Well, it could be this, or it may completely change. But yes, so the story I'm thinking about has to do with connecting with someone with a smile. And it was an experience I had that was very unexpected, and it was kind of a rambling event. And then I suddenly kind of was passing this elderly man who was, is it okay if I tell this part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was just, we were pushing carts, and anyway, it's a long story how I was like, had this nail polish, and I was introverted that day, wasn't really looking at other people, I misplaced the nail polish a couple times. The main thing I went there for was for like a large laundry basket. Anyway, you know, the line, I got in the wrong line. The thing wasn't working, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I ended up, so I was at Walmart. So the door near me was closed. I guess it was late. And I went all the way to the other end, realized I didn't have my nail polish. So I turned around and all the flow of the people with their grocery carts and whatever was coming against me. And I was going the other way. And basically I was like laughing on the inside at myself, you know, as I was going, and just kind of the comedy of errors, I guess. And I kind of, you know how you do a dance with people, you kind of, you know, like you're going to go along.
Playing chicken.
Right. Kind of did that just for a moment with this elderly man. And in some ways, he kind of reminded me of my dad, who's passed away. But, you know, he's just a little elderly man. He's pushing his cart, and he was kind of like I was like a few minutes before, like in my own little world, you know. And when we did that with the carts, he looked up, and I was just kind of like almost laughing out loud at that point. And I just smiled a big smile at him, and we just connected eyes, and his face lit up. And I mean, even just thinking about it, it just warms my heart. It was like this huge, it was almost like everybody else faded away. And it was just this huge, it was like a light, you know, it was like a big connection between us. And I know it warmed my heart. And I feel like I had these thoughts right after that I might have been the first or only person that had smiled at him in ages. You know, he just smiled, and it was just so sweet. You know, then I went back and finally got my thing, you know, which I'd left in a bag. Somebody else picked it up. I still had to go back and get it. But it was like, I felt like my day was changed, and I felt like his was too, you know. And so I was just thinking about something like the amazing or the incredible power of a smile, or can your smile change a life? Or can your smile change someone's day? Or that doesn't sound as powerful.
Well, you know, sometimes what I found in quotes is you start in a short period, you start with a negative and you end positive. You know, you know, in other words, like, you know, in the bleakest of moments can come the greatest of smiles. You know, and so what I'm saying is in your situation, maybe you were just uncomfortable. Maybe he was uncomfortable, but there was something that caught your eye, and you transformed this uncomfortable, this awkward, this unusual connection, you know, with the smile. And then all of a sudden it was so little, but the ripple effect, you know, changed the outlook for his day and yours. And I say that a lot about quotes, that, you know, if you can find something that goes from dim to bright, you know, that might be the way that you want to word it, because it's like, oh, wow, you know, that's wonderful. You know, I was thinking of, like, you know, sometimes the smallest of things become the brightest of rewards, you know, or something like that. You know, not for you, but I was just thinking about how to illustrate, you know, a comparison of contrast in your quote. And some of our greatest quotes are just a comparison of contrast, you know, within your quote, because then you elaborate, you know, on what that comparison of contrast, you know, it was this, but it became that. And that might be how you want to illustrate your quote.
Yeah. Kind of like the dreariness of the moment can change in an instant because of a smile or something.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yes.
That's, yeah, right there. That, because when you say that, it's like, I want to know more. No, really, the dreariest or the crappiest of days, you know, or whatever it is, it's like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I'm having a crappy day. Because if you say, oh, I'm just the happiest of people, good for you. you know. No, it's like right now I'm just having a crappy day. I just want to read something to just pick me up. And that's what you're doing, and that's how I would move that quote on. Dr. or Lana, did you find your quote?
I did. So it's going to be something to this effect. The ability to pivot and recreate your situation redefines failure as a part of the process to achieving a successful outcome. And sorry, go ahead, Robert.
Read it.
Yeah, one of the things I also look at is when it comes to a quote, also minimize the amount of syllables of all the words. If you have too many really complicated words in your quote, there's a lot of syllables in it, and if it doesn't have a metered effect, it's harder to remember.
Yeah, I definitely know I have to play with it, but that is like the kind of effect that I want to portray in terms of how initially when I had to recreate or pivot, I would see myself as
a pivot. So let's go to another quote, because are we learning here? Are we learning?
Yes,
one of them is compare, raise a hand, if one is comparison and contrast. Another one is, I know I'm a poet by trade. That's why I love this. I could do this all darn day. This is just like magic to me. Is another way is, take your quote and say, what cause to what effect? Okay. And so what I want to do is I want to look like, you're not really doing a comparison, a contrast. You're saying, here is a situation, and here I'm taking you into an entirely different situation, right? So how can we break that down in a quote so it feels smoother? Because that's what you want. A quote, complicated quotes don't work because no one can remember them.
Yeah.
I got a little lost in it, and I wanted you to read it one more time.
Right.
Because I was like getting into the pivot, and then there was a lot. I felt. Okay.
Yeah. My daughter actually said the same, and she's a writer and an artist. So I definitely know I need to work on it. But what I really am trying to portray is how at times when you think you failed at something, therefore you have to pivot or recreate something different, which negates the point of failure. It's just a stepping stone to success. And for many years I felt that way until, like, out of the mouths of babes, when my older daughter, I apologized for being a single parent and maybe not having given them the best that they could have got. And she looked at me like I was nuts. And she said, Mom, I've just watched you fall down and recreate yourself so many times. Like, you give me so much strength, and I wish I could be like you, as I grow older. And that was the first time it actually really registered with me before I even got into personal development, that, okay, maybe I haven't failed. Maybe I've done it differently, and I've learned and grown and shown my children how to do the same. And I have two incredibly powerful young women. And as I told Robert, my 32-year-old was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer at the age of 24, given a 14 to 24 month prognosis. Well, it's 7 years later, and she's done everything wrong. She's done it her way, but she's had 8 surgeries, 4 rounds of chemo, radiation. If you saw a picture of her today, you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even think she had a cold. She's gone off to Mammoth now for a week with her dog. I mean, this child is so sick.
See, and that is inspiring.
Right.
That is one I want to hear. I want, quotes are also the result. Like my dad once told me, just because it hasn't been done before. I mean, think of this. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it's not needed or necessary. you know, isn't that's the story of every entrepreneur in a nutshell, right? I mean, that's Dr. Luana, you're doing things that have never happened before. You know, we are the people who make magic.
Yeah,
And see,
so that's exactly right, Robert. That's how, you know, it's just changing the way you see things.
absolutely. And if it gets too technical in the jargon as well, you lost me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, so kind of write down how you can take something, this cause and the result from it, you know, that effect, because that's a
Okay.
beautiful way. Well, I want to make sure we have time for the other areas of the book.
Yes, no.
Did one more person want to share maybe before we go to the next section? This is your time.
Is there
Kathleen, Janet, Dr.
I'll share.
Luana.
yeah, is
Yeah,
there a
this is
word
Janet.
count?
Oh,
Hi.
Hi. So what I was writing things down once you started with your ideas of inspiration, I just suddenly got inspired. So so I have so many little snippets, but one that really hit me the most, I think, is our struggles must be shared with others to comfort their journey.
Mm.
And I think that that's what I'm going to kind of work with.
You know, and I like that too. It goes back to, I hear you, our struggles. That is a strong word.
Mhm.
It's a word that we can all identify with.
Exactly.
Struggles. Who has not struggled here?
Mhm.
If you are, I want your life. No, I mean, you know, it is those struggles that define us, and those who find opportunity for from those struggles, you know, and the larger the struggles or the greater the opportunities. I believe that as well, you know. And Janet, I think that that's something that you can build on. I believe you're spot on in your direction. And Dr. Luana Parker, I know that you were speaking as well. I want to make sure you have a little bit of time too, because you're expressing as well.
No, actually, I was asking about the word count. Is there a certain number of words that we are restricted to?
Yes, we would like to limit the word count to about, well, it's 150 characters. It's actually about 160 characters. What is that in words, Natalie?
Well,
I know Google and Microsoft seem to battle on that. That's the running battle.
like, if you have the average of 5-word or
words,
5-letter
words.
It's about 30 words, but the spacing between the words is counted as a character. So that's where some people count out their 30 words and then try to put it in and it doesn't fit, because you have to count the characters spacing.
What about, yeah, I'm aware of that, but what about the, let's see, when you're doing the, I guess the
info, you get more. Yeah, we're gonna go over that part next.
Oh, okay. I do want to say very quickly,
Okay.
I identify with Lana because my husband, he was told he had 6 months. He lived 11 years behind that 6 months.
Wow.
And Georgette, I wrote 2 stories about what you said. One was about Walmart, and the other was about how my world changed just from making the decision. I would smile.
Awesome. Thank you.
You know, and a smile is powerful. My son, the same one who kind of got the idea on the book, I asked a room one time, what's the most important thing that a business person can have when walking into a room? And you know what he said, Georgette? He said a smile. He said, because it means you're open for business. And plus, who wants to talk to someone who's frumpy and grumpy anyway? All right. So, all right, let's, I'm going to go ahead and go back to our sharing of the screen. And we'll keep charting our journey here. It looks like our journey. So our next slide is the thought. And here we are, Dr. Lawana. The thought is actually up to 350 characters, including the spaces. And I believe that's what, Natalie, what, 225 words?
1350 there, Robert. So we should definitely.
Yeah, in words. Yeah. And
well, do you see on the slide?
Yeah, pardon?
On the slide, it says up to 1350. So we might want to.
Yeah, characters. Yeah. Yeah, for the thought. So there's definitely more characters for the thought than the quote.
Yes.
And and we put together like it's just a conscious process that produces an idea, an opinion, or a story. And and really between in the thought area of ideas or opinions, stories really work well, in my opinion. So that's my idea for you. See if you can transform your quote into some type of story that you have a practical knowledge of. And because I think that that's what also takes someone down the journey. Don't you agree, Natalie?
Yes, just like when the ladies shared their stories, like even the Walmart story, like it almost brought tears to my eyes just listening to, because I can relate how a smile could change or make that man's day. So yes.
Yeah. And so I put up here just some ideas to kind of weave into your thought. In the first one we have is, why is your quote important? And what we mean by that is it could have been important by someone you had an effect on. It could be important because it affected you, or it could have been important because it's something has that legacy, or it's able to be passed on. My son would say that's probably knowledge. Natalie?
Or something you live by,
Mm-hmm.
or something you truly believe in and have used and have impacted others. Oh, I guess I jumped ahead.
That's okay. That's okay. You're good. And then again, with these stories like we heard with Lana and Georgette, love that, because you're drawing us into why that quote matters so much. And sometimes, we see someone's quotes all the time. You can go to Google and find hundreds of quotes, but how often do you actually get to be deeper into that quote from the author themselves? And right. I think that that's what's really neat about this particular book style, is not only do you get the quote, you're also walking them down the path of purpose that you found to create that quote. And I think that there's some beauty in that as well.
Mm-hmm. So the another idea is illustrate it with an example. So that could be the story behind the quote. That could be, if you've used that knowledge or whatever your quote is sharing and had an effect on yourself or others.
Whoops.
Oh, we went backwards.
Sorry about that. Also, show how your quote changed you personally. I was maybe a person of a certain nature. Maybe I was negative. Maybe I hated life. Maybe people I couldn't stand them. But all of a sudden, in your quote, you looked up and your quote is saying, but wait a minute, I'm pointing at others, but really most of the fingers are pointing back at me. That's a great way to illustrate, the impact of your quote.
Mm-hmm. Which is the next one, demonstrate how your quote has impacted others. So that could be impacted through heart, impacted through making them or inspiring them to take an action that could change their life and go on a new path, or just have that belief that they can do it or they are worthy, or whatever you're talking about, just making a difference for that person.
an impact, certainly, and you could say, am I impacting other businesses? Am I impacting other women? Am I impacting my children? Am I impacting a culture? Am I impacting an industry? Am I impacting, government? Am I impacting, all of these things are areas of impact that, to me, probably for each and every one of us is going to resonate at a certain time or another. And so that's very important. Oh, I heard something.
Someone was excited about what you said.
Wow, I heard a wow or something. So, and I think probably Natalie and I came up with one that says, does your quote make your reader reflect? And if it makes your reader reflect in a certain way, you got them. Because I don't think a person can reflect without having some stakeholder of emotion into what you wrote. And emotion to me is very key, because I may forget what you said or did, but I don't forget the way you made me feel.
Yep.
Maya Angelou.
Impact.
Beautiful quote. So that gives us a little bit of time to go to maybe a little bit of a roundtable discussion to just kind of reflect on some ideas of, what you think your thought would look like in your part of the book. And Monette, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, because you went through your quote so eloquently. We didn't really get to go deeper with that quote, darn it.
Let's see. So what did I write? Let me go look. So I just,
that's the other thing. If you write a quote, be sure to memorize it. That's why you don't want it too long.
No, I remember that it's just the thought that I put into it. So it's, like I was saying earlier, it's about the passport, because my friend and I are going to be traveling. And so the thought that I had put is, we all go through a lot in life, experiencing many ups and downs. And it's really, the destination doesn't matter, but the destination doesn't matter, but it's really how we got there in life. We talk about the different roles that we have in life itself, the different journey. So of course, I wrote a lot more. That's kind of like where I'm putting my thoughts, or having the reader really think about, well, what does she mean by traveling? What does she mean by this passport? So anyways, that's what I wrote.
Well, in that you could alliterate.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, if you alliterate in such a way, the passport, could be even the traveling with one in one's mind.
Ah, okay, I got it. Okay.
Because I think I studied, with someone at one time, and they said they have the greatest human travel and time machine of all time. And he said it was right there.
Yeah, because I got it. Because the passport doesn't have to necessarily be, it's a passport in life. And also that I can go to the different stages that we've gone through with our passport.
Absolutely.
Do we have a return flight, or is it a one-way flight kind of thing? Yeah, got it.
See, and absolutely. I went in a different direction with your quote. I was thinking about, as you travel, you could be on the beach and it's that soft sand between your toes and the sun on your face. And so that could be one part of your life. Or are you trekking up a mountain carrying a backpack, and it's rough terrain, and that's our life. It's not always sand beaches, and it's not always, thank goodness, straight up.
And see, this is what's, Monette, this is what's great about, creating more depth into how you write and the way you write, even though it's still in one page, by alliterating something, you can kind of manifest thought, on more than one level. And that's also what creates the depth of the original quote that you have.
Got it. Yeah. I see where you're going with that. Okay. I'm gonna have to maybe change that.
Oh, oh no.
A little bit more. Okay. No.
Kathleen, are you there? Kathleen? Hi. Just so everyone knows, Kathleen
Yes.
has been one of my best friends for about 10 years. I just love and adore her, and it's always good to see her. You know, one thing I love about life is, to me, to age is to gift in many ways, because, the friendships that I have them forever. And that's the amazing thing about living life, is it's meant to be lived. Kathleen, did you have any thoughts on the thought part of the page?
I think it's really important to hit an emotion or leave them something to take away. And last book, I was right there, but because of health issues and new career switch, I'm a little behind the ball on this one. And I'm kind of like I have a foot in both of my careers. And so I have to decide which one I'm going to do my quote and thought to back up my profile. I mean, I have to have something that I can help people with when they contact me, hopefully. So I have homework to do.
That's okay. You've
You know,
got some time.
Well, and one of the things that I say much of the time, part of the reason for this book is for those who are truly nurturers. Nurturers want to know your who and your why before you start talking about your what and your how. And this really is an ideal way for people to get to know your who and your why, because they're actually seeing you illustrate it, and then ask a question that creates introspection for the reader.
Can you say that one more time? Nurturers want to know the what and the why. Is that what you said?
Nurturers really love to know the who and the why.
Who? Okay, you.
The who and the why before they purchase your what and your how.
I love that.
And in many ways, if you look at that, really what we get paid on is the how, but everything else is what gets us to that how. Because
Right.
If I'm the best accountant in the world, then I get paid for my accounting service. But quite frankly, I'm a terrible accountant, so I pay someone else to do that how. But it does mean a lot to me, especially as I get older, that I resonate with who they are and why they do what they do. That has meaning for me, and a lot of it. Any other comments on the thought part of the book? Be vulnerable, everyone. Be vulnerable. It's okay.
You are going to send this recording out, because I've got to leave for another meeting. I can't get out of that one.
No, I have a client at 4.
Okay.
I do want to tell you that listening to this now has made me totally inspired to really make it more about me and how I've affected others or how others have affected me. So this has been great.
Mm-hmm.
It has been great. I really needed this.
Me too. It's perfect.
Same here.
Which because we're almost at the time, and see, it's so wonderful to have this time together. An hour goes by quickly, doesn't it?
Oh my
When
God.
you're really into it, we're already at an
Yes.
hour. So I'm going to share the last screen really quickly before everyone leaves us, and that is the question. It's up to 300 characters, including spaces. So that way, Dr. Luana, I know you love knowing that.
Thank you.
I do
too. And so here's the thing. The question, a sentence worded or expressed so as to elicit a response or an action. And a lot of this is like my mom. She was a PhD in curriculum and instruction, and she said the goal of education is not, it doesn't stop at learning. The goal of education starts with learning and goes towards action. And I always loved that about her. And that's what this is about. Your question is to inspire that action in every reader. And so I had a little roundtable discussion. So we're just a little bit out of time here, and I really enjoyed this as well. You guys all have me thinking on adding some different quotes into the book as well, and that's why I like this. Did you guys get value out of this? I just want to know.
I got a lot of value out of this. I could go for another hour, but
Could you put that last slide up real quick so I could take a picture of it?
Absolutely,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much.
There it
And
is.
Robert, we didn't get to the very last part of the author contact. So if you have more than the two, the website and then a social media link, using a platform like Linktree, well, and it's free, it will allow you to use multiple links in one link that you can share here.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it's spelled linktr.ee. I think it is.
Wait, linktr.ee.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
And then in the chat as well, I'm also going to put some links for everyone. Go ahead and copy them if you can. I don't know if you're a random author or a reserved author for the book, but I have a link, one for the reserved author pages. That means you have a specific date in the book, and one for random authors. That means you left it up to fate. You know, it's whatever the publisher puts you on. So that is there as well. And there's also some more information on the form where that link resides that you can utilize to kind of follow through to know what information we're seeking. And then lastly, if you like, the website is also in the chat as well, 365 Days of Inspirational Quotes.com. And there might be some other inspiration on the website as well to go by, to be a guidepost for this. And I do see you guys trained me, you know, put the original story on how my son and I actually came up with this idea together. So I want to thank everyone for that. I definitely appreciate that.
cool.
All
Well,
right.
we look forward to your quotes. Thank you for showing up, and we will get this out to you in an email.
When do we need to have it to you by? When does
it would be December 10th. December
Last
10th.
day.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, and I'm crazy enough to do this because it's being recorded still. If you would like to contact me to discuss anything about this book, including your contribution, I can be reached at robert@networktogether.net. That's robert@networktogether.net. And I don't spell it with any tricks. It's just ROBERT. So
Robert, there was one other thing that we discussed.
yes.
We were thinking of offering, I don't want to say any more unless.
Oh, okay. Let me go ahead and take us out of recording.